Welcome to TORAH Talk. I am your host, William Hall, broadcasting live out of Kingsland, Texas, USA, with episode number 3 of Kosher Kitchen with Rabbi Chayim Zirkind. Welcome back to the show, Rabbi. Always a pleasure, sir.
Good afternoon. How are you?
I'm doing good. Awesome. All right, cool. Wow.
Okay, so I want to start.
Yes.
I want to start just to answer somebody's question that they asked last week about whether, according to Jewish law, we are allowed to entrap an animal. And it's a very good question. The first thing came to my mind was Shabbos. It says specifically one is not allowed to entrap an animal. So I thought, okay, so does that mean that because the law is that on Shabbos one is allowed, or does that give everybody permission for the rest of the week? So I came across this, it's on Judaism 101, and I thought this was very interesting. So it goes over the definition of the word. The Hebrew word is tsar bali chayim, which means cruelty to animals. So first it starts off with a very interesting line. It says, a righteous man knows the soul of his animal. It's from Proverbs 12:10.
Wait, the righteous man, what with the soul?
A righteous man knows the soul of his animal.
Oh, gotcha.
And that's from Proverbs 12:10. So it goes on to discuss about cruelty to animals. So it says like this: Judaism places great stress on proper treatment of animals. Unnecessary cruelty to animals is strictly forbidden. And in many cases, animals are accorded the same sensitivity as human beings. This concern for the welfare of animals is unusual. Okay, it says it's unusual in Western civilization. Okay, but whatever. The primary principle, that's not important. We're not discussing civilizations. We're discussing the laws of the Torah. The primary principle behind the treatment of animals in Jewish law is preventing tsar bali chayim, the suffering of living creatures. Judaism expresses no definitive opinion as to whether animals actually experience physical or psychological pain in the same way that humans do.
Okay.
However, Judaism has always recognized the link between the way a person treats animals and the way a person treats human beings. A person who's cruel to a defenseless animal will undoubtedly be cruel to defenseless people. We actually find that unfortunately in society.
I see.
How they find these people that they usually start off with torturing an animal before they move on to the next, and that's humans, unfortunately. In the Bible, however, those who care for animals are heroes, while those who hunt animals are villains. For example, Jacob and Moses and King David were all shepherds, people who cared for animals. This is from Genesis 30, from Exodus 31, and from Samuel 17. A traditional story tells that Moses was chosen for his mission because of his skill in caring for animals. God said, since you are merciful to the flock of a human being, you shall be the shepherd of my flock Israel. Likewise, Rebekah was chosen as a wife for Isaac because of her kindness to animals. When Abraham's servant asked for water for himself, she volunteered to water his camels as well, and thereby proved herself a worthy wife. This is actually the last week's Torah portion. It speaks about this episode of when it came, where it says about Eliezer choosing a wife for Yitzchak, Isaac. How he came across, how did he know that Rebecca was the right one? Was because of this. This is actually where it comes from. How she treated the animals and so on and so forth. How everything was an indication that she was the right one for Isaac. Okay. On the other hand, the two hunters in the Bible, Nimrod and Esav. Esav is Jacob's brother. Who was Isaac's oldest twin, the son of Isaac, who was Jacob's brother, are both depicted as villains. The Talmud tells the story of a great Rabbi Yehuda Hanassi who was punished with years of kidney stones and other painful ailments because he was insensitive to the fear of a calf being led to slaughter. he was relieved years later when he showed kindness to animals. So from there we see how being cruel to animals is very, very much not a Jewish trait, and actually the Bible is very much against it. Now, let's put things in perspective now. When we say to capture animals, things like that. So if they're, how then are we going to get them to slaughter? Where else are we going to, So obviously it's within the parameters of halacha, Hebrew law, with not to torture them. In other words, you want to set up a fence or whatever system you want to do to capture them is one thing, but not to torture animals. I hope that answers that person's question about that.
I have an acquaintance who they have a property that's probably about 10 acres or so of property, and it's fenced in like game fence, really tall. And they've been there for years, and there's just a long generation of deer living on the property. And if a person like that was to like, the deer would be close enough to where they wouldn't be scared of them so much because they're always seeing them all the time. It's the only family they experience, and they could bring them in a way that would be calm and subtle like that, and just do the quick kill like the proper way. Would that be acceptable?
We'll call it slaughter, because I'll tell you why. Because the Hebrew word for something to slaughter is called shchita.
Okay.
It's SHCITA, something like that.
Right.
That means to slaughter. They do not use the word kill, and they always make it. And my father was one that did that, and I have a brother that does that. And he told me, he says, we don't kill, we slaughter. He said it's a very big difference. If anybody ever asked me to kill an animal, I would never do it.
Interesting.
Slaughter is the Torah method, not to kill. Which, if you think about it, it's a big difference in their mind. It's a big difference, because slaughtering has to be done with a very specific type of a knife and a very specific type of a way. Killing is the word itself is horrendous.
Right. Well, what's really interesting in Western civilization, here, like for me, when I hear the word kill and I hear the word slaughter, to me, slaughter sounds way more violent. And it's because of being raised up with Hollywood and all the movies, and with all the slaughter used in all these weird old movies we used to watch as growing up, and so there's already that negative spin-off. So in my mind, I'm thinking kill seems to be more calm than slaughter. Slaughter just seems so violent, and it's just the opposite. It's just the other way around.
Seems more like mass slaughter,
right?
As opposed to a mass killing. It almost a mass slaughter. It almost yes. But remember the way Hollywood portrays things, and the way the language has changed, and so on and so forth. Yes, it does. It can sound that way. But if you ask somebody that does that profession, and he does slaughter, he says, "No, I slaughter. I do not kill."
I say we just ditch the word slaughter for shchita instead. That sounds good.
Yes.
Right.
Well, the reason why, because it's something that people they don't have an association with it.
Right. And that's good.
That's
though.
why.
Yeah.
Correct. So
nice.
That's right. So to shecht an animal, to do proper shchita on an animal, that's the word. They say we shecht. We do not do anything other than shecht it.
That's really cool, because it's like a medical procedure, not pulling of a trigger.
It's not,
right.
Correct.
Nice. Correct. That's cool. I don't know why that made me so happy, but it did.
Because
interesting.
Today we're so overly sensitive to terminology that we're just so afraid to offend anyone.
Right.
It is what it is.
Very true. Very true.
So,
okay, so and all this was stemming from last week. If you all missed last week, is it okay to hunt your own meat if you live out in Montana or Wyoming or Colorado and you don't have?
Are you allowed to trap? Right.
Animals? Well, we started talking about can you go hunting at all, right? Didn't we?
So hunting is out. Hunting is out of the question.
Yeah, right. You can't hunt.
It has to be. Somebody has to shecht the animal.
Right. Theoretically, now I was going to, people who've been hunting would probably get this, but I'm thinking that the kosher, the shechita, the shech, however you say that.
Right, the shechita, the shecht.
Right, it's literally a cutting across the neck, right, but it's deep enough and clean enough to sever like all the arteries at once, so there's no.
Correct.
Is that kind of correct? So.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
And there are no blemishes in the knife that will cause it to pull, to yank, to rip, to tear. It's a slit.
Right.
It's a quick slit. That's what shechita is.
So unless you're that good with the broadhead, then hunting is out of there.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Shechita is, and even shechita, you have to be really good at it. Otherwise,
right.
It's not for everyone. It's because the laws are. It's very easy to make a shechita non-kosher, if the person did any of the things that disqualify it, whether he applied pressure, whether the knife was no good, whatever he did, whatever he dragged, whatever the laws are. If the shochet did any of those, it makes it non-kosher.
Wow.
And that's why it has to be a God-fearing Jew, because the God-fearing Jew knows that there's nobody that will know whether or not he screwed up. He's the only one that knows.
Right.
Nobody can say, "Oh, I can taste by this meat that this did not have the proper shechita." Yeah, I don't think so.
Right.
When you get a burger, you couldn't tell the difference of how that was, who did the shechita and who did whatever it is they did to it.
Right.
Well, so therefore it has to be God-fearing Jew.
Gotcha. And on another note, that's fairly connected with this whole kosher kitchen and shechita and the slaughter, the kosher slaughter of an animal. My wife was watching a show last night on TV. She's into all these health food cooking, and there's this one show, and I don't remember what it's called, but the guy said that they're finding out that eating processed meats can cause cancer. Processed meats. And I'm thinking that the only group that probably he didn't include in that are people who like do kosher kills. They don't put all this stuff in it, and I'm thinking that's really one more plus for the shechita, because they're so careful with it that you're not going to have to deal with the same things as you would where they inject red food dye in the meat to make it look redder so you'll buy it, or all these proteins and all these extra things they're trying to. I don't know how all that works, but
I hate to tell you this, don't kid yourself.
Okay.
Meaning to say that the processed meat across the board, most people say is dangerous. The nitrates, all the stuff that's in there, you'll have that in kosher as well. You take a candy, for example. I once spoke to a scientist that deals with these dyes, these colors. They said those things are so dangerous that they have to be very careful when they handle that stuff. That stuff is poisonous. They can only put a drop in. And I'm thinking to myself, oh yeah, that's great. When you suck on a candy and your tongue turns red?
Right.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
that's good for
wow.
you. And that's why I thought to myself, why is it that unfortunately in the past 75 years, cancer has been so unfortunately on the rise. Think about it, because prior to that, people were very natural. People we didn't have all these chemicals in the candies and things like that. Now, don't get me wrong. I am not saying pro or against it. This is just for the sake of conversation. I don't want anybody to call, hey, who paid you off to say that that's no good? No. I'm saying my thoughts on this topic. That from the Torah, actually, according to Torah, you have to protect the body that God gave you. It's not yours. It doesn't belong to us. And therefore, it's very important to eat only food that is good for us. And if we know that something is not good for us, it might be a question if we're going against the Torah if we eat that.
Right.
For example, there are some rabbis that say smoking is prohibited from the Torah because the Torah says you're supposed to protect yourself, and science has proven that smoking can cause interesting illnesses. So a person does have to protect himself. So if somebody knows, for example, that there are specific foods that can cause illnesses, try to avoid them. It's not, most of the time these foods are the evil inclination tells us that we want it. So it's more of a desire than, beneficial to us. It's like, it's like you don't have to tell a kid that potato chips taste good, but you have to convince him that broccoli is good for you.
Right.
It's the way it is. So you really have to, if you know something is no good for you, if you can, you should try to avoid it, because the Torah wants you to be healthy. The Torah doesn't want you to damage your body, because it's not ours. That's why we can't do, unnecessary alterations to our body, so anything like that,
right.
because it's not ours. God gave it to us to carry our soul around, not for us to.
That's a good point. I kind of was thinking as you're explaining this whole thing that our bodies are not ours. It's like you said, our soul is just our body is just a vehicle for our soul to travel in. And if you think about borrowing someone else's vehicle, let's say someone loans you their new truck and they said only put super unleaded in it, and if you keep it for so long, make sure you get an oil change in it on this date and all this other stuff. But you decide, well, the heck with that, I'm not spending $3.59 a gallon for gas. I'm gonna put the cheap stuff in it. Well, that's totally wrong. You can't do that.
That's exactly.
Well, same concept.
So in a way, we're doing the same thing.
Right.
Because I hate to say this, because human nature, but same thing is when we sin. In a way, that's what we're doing. God gave us a pure soul, and the body is to carry the soul. And when we sin, that's what we're doing. We're not. It's diminishing our life, not increasing our life. When we do a mitzvah, a precept, we actually add life to ourselves as opposed to the opposite of that. So but again, this is why we're here to rectify, to clarify, to elevate everything that we can. Yes, there are going to be sometimes do go on a slippery slope, but we have to try to come out on the other side stronger than we were before. Things will happen. That's why we have Yom Kippur. That's why we have, prayers. We ask for forgiveness, because God knows the nature of man, that we will, unfortunately, we will sin. So we're supposed to do the best that we can to protect ourselves from sin. So this goes like hand in hand with the eating. It's like, why is it that we're not going to, if, for example, they give an example, if you had a bowl of M&Ms and two of them were tainted with whatever, poison, right?
Right.
Would you risk taking a handful of those M&Ms?
No, hardly.
Absolutely
right.
not. No. So why is it that when it comes to sin or things like that, we're not so worried about that? We're not worried about, that's not going to kill us. How do we know that? How do we know? Therefore, it's important to try to focus on positive and do good things and hope that we don't sin, because again, the body and soul were given to us by God, and it's not for us to,
Right.
But that's a whole other.
That's different.
Okay.
All right, so let's move on to the next topic. So
the next topic was we discussed last week about blood and eggs.
Yes.
I just want to read a couple of things that I found. So in Code of Jewish Law, it rules that when it is known that the blood on an egg is a result of the beginning of the development of the chick, it is forbidden according to the Torah. When it is not known whether the blood marks the beginning of the development of a chick, the blood is permitted according to the Torah, but the rabbis prohibited it.
Now, just to be safe, right?
Now, the reason why, that whole thing that I just spoke about protecting ourselves and all that, that's really because that goes to what was just said about the rabbis prohibiting it. The rabbis put a prohibition on things in order that we don't cross the line of the Torah. The rabbis sort of gave us a fence around the Torah that don't do this. Like for Shabbos, we light the candles 18 minutes before sunset, because sunset already is Shabbos.
Right.
So we light before, so we shouldn't get. So that's when we think of the rabbis, we think, they're not here to make our lives miserable. They're here to protect us, to do things to protect us, that we don't sin, that we don't cross any lines.
Right.
So that's why it says that according to the Torah, correct, it's not prohibited, but the rabbi said any blood out.
Right, gotcha.
Now, the next one is eating the blood and eggs. The Mishnah states that one is guilty of excision for eating.
Okay.
This has really, I don't know why this is here with the blood. That's eating the blood of eggs. I don't know why that's there. Okay, we'll go to that. This is another one. This is about fish, eggs, whatever. We're discussing eggs. I just read a few things about eggs. I'll just speak about them. So the Talmud states that a sign that an egg comes from a kosher bird. Okay, so it has to come from a kosher bird, right? So how do we know that it's a kosher? How do we know? You see eggs in the store. How do we know where it's from, right?
Right.
So the Talmud states that a sign that an egg comes from a kosher bird is that one end is round and the other end is pointed. Okay?
Okay, what do you mean
if both ends are round or both ends are pointed, then that is a sign that the egg comes from a non-kosher bird and it's prohibited.
Whoa. Nice.
So when you ask, before you ask your question, now ask it again. How do you know? Take an egg and you tell me.
Right. Gotcha.
If you can see, if they both look the same, then you got a non-kosher egg.
Right. That's pretty cool. That's really cool to know. Okay, nice.
Then it says the Talmud teaches that the same way in which eggs are verified as kosher, fish eggs are verified as kosher.
Interesting.
Fish eggs are. So the law regarding fish eggs is recorded by the Code of Jewish Law, who writes that if both ends are the same, the egg certainly is not kosher. If one end is pointed and one end is round, then the buyer must ask the Jewish seller about the origins of the egg. If he says that he personally took them from a kosher fish, he is believed. If he simply says that they are kosher, he is not believed unless he is known to be very trustworthy in areas of kashrus. Very important rule. Just because you go to the store, the guy, the cashier or the owner of the store looks like Moses. He has the longest beard and the biggest kippah. That doesn't mean anything. Is he a trustworthy person? And that's reputation is a big key. I think I told you this before. The person walks into the restaurant and he asks if it's kosher. So he says, "Don't you see a picture of Moses hanging?" He says, "I'll tell you that if you were hanging and Moses was serving, then I'll trust that it's kosher." But that picture isn't doing much for me.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one.
I'm just going to go on to the next about scales. So what defines a kosher fish? It has scales, right?
Got it.
You with me?
Yep.
So the Mishnah says that in order for a fish to be kosher, it must have both fins and scales, as the Torah teaches in Vayikra 11:9. What type of external covering of a fish constitutes scales? Now, scales is, what does that mean really? So the Ramban writes that only scales that can be removed are considered scales. If they are attached to the skin of the fish such that they cannot be removed, then they are not considered scales and the fish is not kosher. You got that?
Yep.
His explanation is based on a Tosefta, which means a discussion on that says basically it's all in Hebrew, so we'll move it on. We'll move on.
Okay, no problem.
Okay, the next one is prohibition against eating chicken with milk. The Talmud discusses whether the prohibition to eat the meat of a fowl with milk is from a Torah or rabbinic. Okay? We always consider, we think fish, chicken, meat, right?
Right.
Yeah, chicken soup and all that. So it's brought down one of the one of those that explain the Talmud, seems to conclude that eating fowl with milk is included in the Torah laws of eating meat with milk, while the Rambam, Maimonides, rules that the prohibition of eating fowl with milk is rabbinic. That the rabbis prohibited it as a safeguard against eating meat with milk.
So the eating milk and meat is a rabbinic law, not
no milk and meat is from the Torah.
Okay.
Milk and fowl is, according to Maimonides, it is from the rabbis. That It's more to protect us from. It's a safeguard against eating meat with milk.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, cool.
Let's see what else. Sounds. Oh, here's an interesting one. Let's see this. Let's see how this plays out. Cooking meat with whey. You know what whey is?
No, it's like wheat or something.
Whey?
Right?
No. Whey. Whey is
it's like protein or something.
It's called liquid of It's the liquid of the milk. It's sort of like the clear liquid of milk.
Okay.
Now that's considered dairy. If you look at ingredients that say that does contain dairy, whey would be one of the things. WHEY. It's not this way or that way. This is whey.
Gotcha.
The Talmud states that one who cooks meat with whey is not guilty of committing a sin. The Torah prohibits cooking only actual milk with meat. However, the Talmud in another place teaches that it is forbidden to eat meat with what is this? I'll explain this one. The Talmud teaches in another place that it is forbidden to eat meat with a dish that is made with whey. So it's not that simple.
So how does that apply to like now?
So
give us an example of how that would be violated.
Okay, so you have, let's say you buy cake, and it has whey in it. Whether or not you can use that for stuffing. Not cake, whatever the food stuffing. Sometimes they have dairy in it. But you have a cake. You buy it. Let's say not a Dunkin' Hines. You buy whatever the cake is, and it has whey in it. Am I allowed to eat that after a meat meal? Is that considered because I have to wait after meat? I have to wait several hours. Am I allowed to have that after?
Okay.
So from this, it comes out that no, we're not allowed to.
Right.
So that's where that is where it does play a huge role.
Gotcha.
Let's see what else we got that sounds.
Phone number is on your screen, ladies and gentlemen. 855-95-BIBLE, 855-952-4253. Call in. I see some activity on the YouTube chat. I can't really keep up with it too well, though, so I'll look back and see if I can find a few of the questions. I said it was on your screen. Okay, now it's on your screen. 855-952-4253. So phone lines are open. If you get any questions, give us a call. It doesn't have to be on point, but it does need to be roughly about Kosher Kitchen somehow. If you got another kosher question you want to ask, let me see. Rabbi Coffman is messaging me. Let me tell him I'm recording. I'll say, stop it. Yeah, that's funny.
Here's an interesting one. I'll read this for the sake because I think we tend to have this when we travel a lot.
Okay.
Those that travel. So it's heating food in a non-kosher microwave.
In a non-kosher microwave, meaning it hasn't been. You go to
a restaurant. I mean, you go to a hotel.
Yeah.
Spending the night there, and you have a non-kosher microwave, but you want to warm up you have something there that you can warm up.
Gotcha.
Can I use? So it says, how can I warm? So the question is, the person asked, how can I warm up a meat meal in a non-kosher microwave, or in a kosher dairy microwave? So the answer that was given is like this: several authorities have written that a microwave can be koshered by ensuring that it is completely clean, leaving it unused for 24 hours, and then turning on the microwave with a cup of water inside for several minutes until an amount of water has evaporated. Note that the tray on which food is placed would require boiling of water or replacement with another tray. The cup used for a meat microwave should be considered meat, and for a milk microwave should be considered milk. If the microwave is possibly non-kosher, a disposable cup should be used, which is discarded after the koshering procedure. If this procedure cannot be done, the food can be heated if it is hermetically sealed by two covers.
Oh, cool. So if you had it in a Tupperware bowl with a lid, maybe it's got a vent hole, but you could put it in a non-kosher microwave as long as your container's kosher.
Yes, and it's double wrapped.
That's cool. That's good to know. Okay, quick question on Mitch. I believe Mitch Rolofsky is asking, what about kosher cheese? What are the rules for kosher cheese or non-kosher cheese?
Yes, cheese is milk is one of the things that need to be kosher. We have to know that it comes from a kosher cow, from a kosher species. So milk does have to have a reliable
source,
a reliable kashrus mark on it.
Gotcha.
If you want to go to the farm and milk the cow yourself, hey, be my guest.
Right. Okay, cool.
That's something.
Okay, let's see. I'm looking back now. Fruit bread. Okay, I understand. Okay, so it looks like we got some viewers out there. Some are asking questions. Some are answering them. That's okay.
Hey,
I'd hate for the questions to get missed, So, no tuna melts. What? Wait, tuna? Oh, you can't have cheese. I've heard cheese and fish. Come on, man.
That's not that simple.
Oh.
That's not that simple. Before you start telling people not to have a tuna melt, let's put things in perspective.
Okay.
The reason why I say that is, yes, you're right. You are right about no tuna melts, but not everybody agrees with that. We don't have tuna melts because we believe that because it says that milk and fish should not be combined. The same way fish and meat cannot be eaten together. Some say that is actually a misprint, that it was supposed to be meat and fish, not dairy and fish, but since it says it, so we try to be, how it says that the rabbis put a fence around things,
yep.
So we go the extra mile and we don't touch that either.
Wow.
But some say that it means the liquid milk,
okay, not
the cheese. That cheese is not, when it says milk and fish, it means the actual liquid, not a cheese. Yes, you could say, well, what's the difference? I am not a scientist. Go call your scientist and ask him what the difference is between cheese and milk.
Right.
And I can tell you one thing: if you don't know the difference between cheese and milk, please don't be a chef, because I don't think that you do very well in that profession.
That's funny.
But yes, there are many that say that there are those that will not eat a tuna melt for that reason.
Now, you said something, you can't eat tuna and meat.
Fish and meat together we cannot eat.
Fish and meat. Oh, I didn't know that either. Why is that?
Yeah, fish and meat. It says because it's actually dangerous.
Really? Wow.
It says it's a danger, and therefore we can't. And that's the same reason why they say that fish and milk, because of danger. So now the interesting thing is, if you remember that we spoke about this, so you see people that have, let's say, a cheeseburger. It says for us, we can't have it, but yet you see people that eat it, and it actually makes them healthier, because Gentiles do not have the laws of kashrus. For them, it makes them healthier. It's not only when its prohibition is to you. That's when it affects you. But if you don't have any prohibition, it doesn't affect you.
Interesting.
So therefore, if you say what is milk? They sell all kinds of dishes with they have fish chowders. They have all kinds of things like that. So how could you say that it's everybody seems to be doing just fine after a nice fish chowder? Yeah,
Right.
for those that don't have the prohibition, that's right. It's not going to affect them. But if a person, the same thing is when a person takes upon themselves not to do something,
Right.
to that it becomes like a biblical law, like a Torah law, off limits.
Wow.
To somebody else, it's perfectly fine.
Cindy says, she goes, I think I dodged a bullet on the tuna melt. That could be a deal breaker.
It's interesting. I'll tell you that's not either a light. That's not either a light thing to say, a deal breaker. It could affect what's called shalom bayis, peace at home. If there's certain things that a person has to like. If it's going to affect marriage or things like that, it's not that simple. Don't just come home one day and say that's it. No more this and no more that.
Right.
Because you might be finding yourself living alone. And you'll be eating a lot of tuna melt because that's the only thing you can eat.
That's funny.
So if it has to do with anything that has to do with shalom bayis, peace at home, it should be discussed with an Orthodox rabbi. The reason why I say an Orthodox rabbi, because when it has to do with the Torah, it has to be answered by somebody that knows the laws, not by somebody that's just looking for a loophole here and a loophole there. That's not the Torah way.
Okay.
If you want to solve problems, you always go to the professional. That's the same thing. Don't go to somebody that's going to tell you, that should be fine. Just rip out the liver, you'll live a few more weeks. You want to go to somebody that knows what they're talking about. So yes, it can be a deal breaker for some people if you say, even like keeping Shabbos. Some people, they're like, wait a second, are you going to start keeping Shabbos? It's a deal breaker. So what do? You live with a couple. You live with your partner for so many years. Suddenly you decide, I'm going to become Shomer Shabbos. I'm going to start keeping Shabbos. Okay, you do realize that you have a spouse and you have children. How do you go about that? How do you make it all work? So those are things that's when you really do need the help of a rabbi to help you get through it. Instead of throwing away the marriage and saying, no, this will never work because I'm not interested in keeping Shabbos. You're insane. You're nuts. Don't underestimate the power of knowledge that a rabbi has. A lot of rabbis have a lot of experience in these fields, and that's what they're very good at it. They're very trained. They're very capable. So don't ever break a deal based on a kosher issue or a Jewish issue without consulting a rabbi, because you can regret it later, and then you'll feel like, why did I throw away my marriage when now I'm keeping Shabbos? Now what?
Yeah, right.
I threw away my husband, or I threw away my wife, and now I'm keeping Shabbos.
Right.
So it's always good to, let's not be our own rabbis. It's very important to seek help whenever it's something this, whenever it has to do with peace at home. Don't just throw it away. I know somebody, she told me, she says, whenever I screw up and I make a pot or a dish or a cutlery tray, I throw it away. I said, it's against the Torah to waste. The same Torah that tells us we can't eat treif also tells us not to waste.
Interesting.
So don't judge. Don't become your own judge. Don't think you're doing anybody a favor. Don't think you're pleasing God by just chucking a pot. You just wasted a pot. If you donate it to somebody, it's one thing. But if you're throwing it in the garbage, he says, I just throw it in the garbage. So who benefits from that?
Mm-hmm. Right.
And you can kosher it. The Torah tells you how to kosher it. It's not like it's something that you can't fix.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's something you can fix, why are you throwing it away? You're not allowed to throw it away. Do you throw away your car because you got a flat tire? You get it fixed.
That's an interesting example.
Well,
right.
Whatever comes to mind,
That's funny. Okay, tell us about a kosher law that probably we're unaware of. Something that's kind of like, I bet you didn't know this moment.
Okay, here's one. We'll try this one.
All right.
Our sages obligate to put when we buy a dish, a pot, metal, glass, things like earthenware, we have to take it to a mikveh. They have to be immersed in a mikveh. Do you know that?
An actual dish has to be immersed in a mikveh? I did not know that.
Yes.
Nice.
The reason is because it might have been used, or when they made it, they might have thought of an idol. So that's why it has to go to the mikveh. It's a purifier. It's a cleanser. So that's something I didn't know. If you did know, you didn't know. So when you go buy new dishes,
yeah,
you have to put them in a mikveh.
So why can't you just take a bottle of wine then and give it a mikveh? I mean, if wine is like that has to be marked kosher wine, otherwise you can't drink it. Unlike alcohol, like hard liquor. So why couldn't you then just take a bottle of wine that wasn't marked kosher and just give it a mikveh? Right.
The liquid itself is not kosher.
Right.
If you pour the liquid into the mikveh, did you drink before the show? What the heck?
No, that's funny right there. I don't care who you are.
You know, it's like, can I go to the mikveh holding a rat in my hand? If the rat makes me impure,
that's
the
hilarious.
Rat makes me impure, can I take a rat into the mikveh with me and make them both pure?
Oh my gosh, that's funny.
Can I take a non-kosher piece of meat and slaughter it?
Great.
I chefed a burger.
That's funny.
Can I take the burger into the mikveh? Hey, do whatever you want. Whatever floats your boat.
Okay, let's see. All right, let's
whatever.
see the comments here. Oh, someone wants to know, can they drink coffee? Let me go back to it. I saw the reference to the question, but I don't see the question. Here you go. Can you drink? This is from Yirmiyahu on YouTube. Can you drink coffee with milk just before a dinner with meat? Now I'm going to add one to that. If you use non-dairy creamer, also. Go ahead.
Non-dairy creamer, if it has no milk, is not a problem.
Okay.
Now the milk. Okay, for the sake of conversation, this is for the sake of conversation.
Okay.
Milk, between milk and meat, liquid milk. In other words, if I take a cup of milk, according to halacha, according to Hebrew authorities, you may just rinse out your mouth and have meat. We don't.
Wait, repeat that, please.
If I have a cup of milk,
okay,
just glass, and I drink it,
okay,
and then we're going to sit down to the Thanksgiving dinner.
Okay.
According to, there are authorities that hold that it is not a problem to just rinse your mouth to make sure you don't have any milk left in your mouth.
Okay.
And then proceed to eating the meat meal. Others wait. We wait an hour, some wait a half hour. If it's a hard cheese, they wait 6 hours because that's something that already has to do with the digestive system and so on and so forth. But yeah.
Good.
Oh, here's something you might not know.
Okay.
Let me see. Okay, let's see how long this is. Okay, it's not that long. Reasons why the Torah forbade blood. Blood contains the soul of the animal, and by eating blood, one incorporates within himself an animal soul. Through doing so, one's connection to his soul's root in heaven is severed.
Whoa.
Blood is meant to be offered in the temple as an offering, therefore we are not allowed to eat it. It gives animalistic character traits to the person, such as bad desires. Blood used to be offered for idolatry, therefore Hashem forbade its consumption for the Jewish people.
That's interesting. You know, they've got these shows where these like survival shows, and the people in the show sometimes they'll.
I can't. will watch them.
Right.
Gross. Where they make them eat all kinds of weird stuff.
Yeah, well, some of them will actually like they'll catch whatever rabbit, squirrel, or deer, and they will purposefully like go through that because they want to become one with the animal. You know, I never heard what you said is by doing that it actually severs your soul with Hashem, and that's really interesting. Not that I would ever eat one of those anyway, but I just thought that was very interesting that you mentioned that.
Yeah, so that's what. I just look as we're talking. Don't mind me. I'm
You're fine.
I'm glad you think so.
Yeah.
Can you put that in writing, please?
Okay. Let's see what we got here. This is the one we're talking about, the Thanksgiving dinner. There's an off the wall question for you.
Like all the other ones were on the wall.
Someone's Root Bray says, is the rabbi talking about Thanksgiving dinner celebrated in the U.S.? I thought this celebration was for Christians, for the Christians. Do the Jewish people celebrate Thanksgiving also?
Yes, there is. It is not a religious holiday. It is a day of thanks to God, and I was always taught that there is nothing wrong with it.
Okay.
That there is no mention of
idolatry,
any type of and it's not like Halloween. It's not like anything. It's not like those.
Gotcha.
That Thanksgiving is a day you're just thanking God. We're thanking God that He gave us this land that we could live and do God's will without any persecution, without any problems.
Gotcha. Okay, next question. This is from Mitch again. He's actually making a statement. There is a question about keeping hard-boiled eggs. Explain. Is there something?
Sorry?
Is there an issue with keeping hard-boiled eggs?
Without the shell. He's referring to the question about.
Okay.
Yeah, it's without the shell. Yes, there is a problem. It says that it's not safe, and therefore you should keep. You could take a bunch of eggs, just leave one with a shell, put them all together. As long as he has some part of a shell. The same thing applies to an onion.
Why is that exactly?
It just says not to do it.
Okay.
I think it says. I think the reason some say dangerous, some say you might forget things. I don't remember offhand. I will look that up. Why?
That's okay.
It's just something. Out of habit, I do it.
Right.
So I don't. But yes, that with a hard-boiled egg, just to leave part of the shell in it.
Interesting.
I always joked around. I said when I went to yeshiva, to Hebrew school, I said the eggs had no problem because whenever they made egg salad, so the question was about the shell. How do you store it? I said, I don't know. But the egg salad they made always had a crunch. I said, I think we were safe. We were allowed to eat those eggs.
I guess they just cooked in some of the shell with it.
They left the shell
That's
in there. So
awful.
You can store that overnight. Not a problem.
Oh, my gosh. That's funny. Wow. Well, I was hoping we get a phone call coming in. Have you got another bet you didn't know moments for us?
Interesting. Yes.
Okay.
If acquaintances eat meat and dairy at the same table, if two people who are acquainted with one another eat together at the same table, and one eats meat while the other is eating dairy, they are required to place the Hebrew word is a heker, a reminder on the table. Put something there to indicate that, okay, we're both eating at the same table, but look, this picture is between us because you're having dairy and I'm having meat.
I got you.
So we put something to make to indicate a reminder that, okay, let's not cross foods. Since they are acquainted with one another, it is possible that they might share each other's food and will thus be eating meat and dairy. Therefore, they need to place in the front of them some object which is not normally on the table, which they will see and will remind them not to take each other's food. One suggested to not put your shoe on there. That might not work very well. If they do not have anything,
a dirty sock.
Yeah, put a dirty sock on there. You won't have to worry about the sharing the meal. If they do not have anything unusual to put on the table, they may write a note, like a post-it, reminding them not to take each other's food. Placing this note on the table somewhere where they can both see it suffices to allow them to eat together at the same table. It must be emphasized that this requirement applies only if the two people know each other. If they do not know each other, then there's no need to put that thing there. as people do not normally
because they wouldn't share. Yeah,
strangers.
Right. That's interesting.
So that might be a good point.
Okay, so what if you're having friends over? If you're Jewish and you're fixing to have friends over for a cookout, barbecue,
Jewish,
whatever.
You don't have friends.
Can you put out? I didn't hear you. What'd you say?
I said, if you're Jewish, you don't have many friends. I'm joking.
Oh. So can you put out milk and meat like on separate ends of the table or something in case somebody wants to have only dairy stuff?
No.
You can't. No. You can't serve it together on a table together.
Because that's
Tempting.
Already. First of all, you're becoming a facilitator to that. If somebody doesn't keep kosher, let's say, you're helping them not keep kosher.
Oh yeah, got it. Good point.
So you cannot put a stumbling block.
I was thinking the same thing. Yeah, for the blind. Yeah, that's a great point. Great point. All right. Interesting. Well, I'll tell you what. This has been a really fun show. I appreciate the laughs you bring in. Kind of helps keep it lighthearted.
I think they're funny.
Oh man, that's great.
Funny.
Well, so in 2 weeks we'll meet again.
God willing.
Yeah, and for you viewers out there, Rabbi and I are talking about maybe creating a different show, not to replace this one, but in addition to this one. And not really. There's different ideas that we're exploring. So since he is an Orthodox rabbi, he's got a little bit wider range of teachings that he can.
Have a wider beard.
Longer the beard, the longer the program.
So, it just reminds me of one quick joke before we
go. Go ahead.
It's this rabbi that every Shabbos, so he give a sermon. So how do you know how long the sermon should last? So he just took a candy, whatever it was, and he put it in his mouth. As he was talking, it dissolved. So when the candy would dissolve, he knew, okay, that's whatever, 8 minutes, whatever, the sermon is over. Well, Shabbos, he was going on and on and on and on. It's like, you okay? You don't talk that much. He said, oh, no, I put a button in my mouth.
A button. Oh, man. Oh, lovely. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Well, okay. So thank you all for tuning in. So again, catch us in 2 weeks. Again, just as a reminder, we will be eventually getting back on a weekly schedule, like every week, as far as TORAH Talk goes. Once we get the building in place and the studio is actually finished out inside, so I can actually move all my stuff in and get me out of the wife's office here, then we'll be recording every week from then on. So, and so that's going to be a long-term love commitment between me and the building. So if you guys want to pitch in to help get that thing paid for, that would be great. TORAHTalk.com, you can just look for a PayPal button at the bottom. Anyway, Rabbi, tell everybody where they can find you for those who are tuning in for the first time.
Please don't look for me.
No, you want to go to the Kosher Kitchen Facebook page.
So actually,
right?
You go on Facebook. Yeah, actually, my name is Chayim Zirkind, Chayyim. Last name Zirkind. I am on Facebook, and there are a couple of groups that I'm with and that I post things on. For example, Kosher Kitchen. Laws of Shabbos, different Torah learning groups. So feel free, whatever you want. I'm on there. You can please send a question. Don't always expect an answer, but I'll try to help as much as I can.
Well, if they send you a question, at least they can you can kind of have it set up for take note of it and maybe bring it up on the show, right?
Right.
And we can always bring it up at a later time. So, and same with some people, if you're watching and you want to put your question on the YouTube channel, you can, but I can't always monitor that. So if you really got a question you want to get answered, call in. The number is usually on your screen, 855-95-BIBLE. Just remember that, and you can translate that and when you get ready to call in. So, but yeah, so that's about it, I guess. So until 2 weeks from now, we'll see you guys again, same time, same place, Hashem willing. And thank you all for tuning in. Thank you, Rabbi, for your time. Always been a blast. Really, really enjoyed it. Y'all have a good one. All right, take care. Shalom, everybody.
נשוב